Alright folks, Bicasso here. Today, I'm supposed to be making more progress on my Sportster 1200, but before we do that, I gotta show you how I took some of the damaged parts off the bike and turned them from this into this. But the only way I can do that, we gotta go more than a month back to show you that entire process. Let's jump to it. Before starting on all the broken bits on the bike, I would need to remove the fuel pump from this dented gas tank. This, of course, has seen better days.
Something. Alright, fuel pump's out. I don't know what that is, but we gotta get it out. That doesn't actually look broken, so that's cool. So we got the fuel pump out, and we got two dents. We got one here, and we got the major one here. So this dent, they're probably just gonna tack something to it and pull on it. The cool part about the bigger dent is that it's right here by the fuel pump housing. So they're able to put tools in and just work that dent out from the inside. So that makes this dent actually just as convenient to work on as this side, even though this one's a lot bigger. This tank would now go off to my local body shop for repair because this is a little bit out of my ability. Next up was making progress on the road rash parts, so I would start by scuffing these up with 80 grit sandpaper to flatten the metal out and get good adhesion for body filler. Now, I took a bit of a gamble on this body filler after, of course, going to YouTube University, but I would use Bondo glazing putty, which does a good job at filling holes and small cracks. So this stuff is taking, it's taking a little bit longer to dry than usual. So because of that, decided to go ahead and work on this other one. I've never done this before, and I would still have to get over this thing called a learning curve.
It's cold out here. I know I need a heater. I know. I can't afford one. I'll get one at some point, but it ain't gonna be today.
But I would use 320 grit sandpaper to feather the edges, but also deal with the lack of a warm temperature in the garage, which would allow this Bondo to fully dry, which led to me clogging up a good amount of sandpaper. That's a lesson learned. Yeah, that did not hold at all. This isn't dry. This one feels a little bit drier. Yeah. For some reason that just didn't take on that first set. Being that I'm doing this in the garage, I would work on priming each component here, not realizing that the overspray, that stuff eventually will creep up on you. Like I'm telling you, like if you do not mask something off, it has a high potential of getting some type of overspray on it.
I'm gonna wait for these to dry a little bit, and then I'll move these and get the other parts and do the same thing. That looks really good. I didn't have to put it on that back side, but I did anyway, and I also didn't clean that side. That could be better, but you know, it's okay. I don't know how this is gonna go, but I'm gonna try to get the bottom and this at the same time, and then try to come back and get the other side.
Eventually, this primer would show itself and be an absolute nightmare to clean up. This is foreshadowing a very important lesson.
I got a little bit over ambitious thinking that the overspray wasn't going to be a problem. I did not think that part through, but it has not gotten on the bike over here. And plus, you know, this is at the point where you can actually wipe this up. So the dust is not really a problem, and I clean my tables off when I get done with everything, but definitely the overspray is more likely more significant than you think it's going to be.
I would use Rust-Oleum primer to cover these parts, and I would be very surprised at how well these parts are coming out given the prior road rash that they had. But this Bondo glazing putty, I ain't gonna lie to you, I was a little worried about it at first, but it ends up coming out pretty well.
Yeah, I got a little bit of run right there. I messed this up, man. I messed up because I didn't give myself enough room right here, I feel like. Because as I'm doing the stroke, I'm trying to blend it. And like I said, I just didn't do a good job with that. Like back here, you can see where the tape line is going to be once I take this off, but I'm going to have to take some of this off when I actually apply the paint and kind of blend it a little bit better. Like, I didn't do a good job with that, so it is what it is. I got a little bit of paint left, but this is literally the hardest piece because there were so many little spots that I had to blend. Versus the Sissy Bar, I had that whole piece that I could paint. But this has notch here, notch here, notch here, all paint, good paint here. So worst case, I end up painting the whole thing. I'm gonna try my best not to. But it's gonna be really hard to blend this. This might have been a mistake. But it had rust spots. And I wanted to fix the rust spots. But maybe I should have just gotten spray paint and just dabbed it in the area. I might have should have done the dab technique and just kind of put it in there, but
with a little bit of success from the primer, I thought, you know, black Rust-Oleum, I need these parts to be black. That would kind of make sense, right? It did. The parts did look nice, but it was still missing something. And at this point in time, I didn't have access to clear coat. So I did a little bit of research and I decided to have the Vivid Black Harley color paint matched. So I went to my local automotive paint store, I got this done, and at this place, I would pick up a 2K clear coat from an aerosol can that a lot of people on YouTube use.
This stuff with enamel in it, it tends to run really fast, but this will give me a chance to clean up all of this mess because I definitely underestimated the amount of overspray that was possible. So I'm going to clean this up and we're going to see what this thing looks like tomorrow.
Also, dealing with that overspray, eventually I would set up this plastic, I kind of called it ghost booth paint garage thing because it was kind of like a paint booth. Even though it did control the overspray, it kept the fumes in even with the garage doors open, so it still was kind of sketchy, but it did work.
And then I sprayed those parts yesterday, which I want to say we had about a good 65 degrees, so they had plenty of time to just cure in the perfect environment, or almost perfect environment. But today is actually 70 degrees, but I'm not gonna have enough time to actually clear coat anything, and I probably won't for the next few weeks because it's supposed to be really cold. So what I did to help with that overspray, I call it Ghost Garage Booth paint thing. And it's basically some plastic taped to the ceiling, and when I spray inside of it, it keeps that overspray out completely, and I have not had an issue with it. You can see it's simple, man. There's tape at the top. It's nothing, it goes below the table. So this is the paint that I bought from my local paint store. The paint code for Vivid Black is A27220B. There was also a PPG code, but this is what is in their system for Vivid Black. Okay. Now, I had to get used to this paint because this paint, it comes out different because it's been thinned out compared to like Rust-Oleum aerosol paint.
I mean, there's aerosol in here, but this paint has been mixed and it's a lot thinner, so it can flow better. So I had to get used to that. This is the Sissy Bar. I must say it has come out fantastic. That's where one of the scrapes was. It's covered up really well. And on the other side, pretty much the same thing. If you look here, you can see the difference between the clear coat and not having clear coat. I still have to clear coat this, and also I'm going to try to wet sand some of these parts and level some of this stuff out. I'm not sure how that's going to work just yet, but that is the plan. But I'm very happy with how that turned out. The triple, if you remember what the triple looked like, this is what the triple looks like now. That spot is gone. The glazing putty actually did a pretty decent job. Of course, I think regular Bondo would have still been better, but you can almost see my reflection, and I haven't done anything with clear coat or sanding or buffing and polish, so I think it's done really well. These are the control front pieces to the clutch lever perch and the brake lever perch. These turned out really well. This is the perch right here. It turned out really well. Brake reservoir, I'm just gonna pick that up and show you. This is what it looks like now. Like I said, it's not perfect. Bondo would have been better. There's a few spots that I missed. I'm gonna have to go and touch that up with some dabs of paint. And this is the suspension strut. The spring came out, I feel like, perfect. Just need some clear coat. The top could have been better. The Bondo job could have been better. I did miss one spot at the top, I think, that I need to go back and fix. But overall, I am pleased with how that turned out. The brake levers could have been better, and the clutch lever could have been better. This is a big mistake. So this is the part that had the Rust-Oleum on it, and then I thought, hey, I could just spray this stuff right on top of it. It did not like it. As you can see, that's the primer underneath. I did practice wet sanding with 1000 grit on this. You can see that. You can actually see the orange peel actually starting to be fixed a little bit on that. So that's interesting. A lesson learned there. And this is the big one. This is the front fender that actually turned out pretty decent. Not much orange peel on this. I did miss the tip right here. It's really hard to see. See, there's little tips of primer still there. I got to go back and fix that. But yeah, I'm actually kind of satisfied with the surface. I do have one bit of a paint run back here. You can kind of see the difference a little bit. You can see where my tape line was a little bit. That paint run, where is it? There it is. There's that paint run. You can see it like right there. So also have a little bit, see right here? That's pretty bad. I gotta go back. That's where the difference in the old paint and the new paint meet. I'm gonna have to wet sand that and try to level it out, scratch that clear coat up, and then once I spray the new clear coat, it should work. But this is my current situation, and I'm actually kind of pleased with it. But while painting the parts, I'd run into the issue I wouldn't fully understand until weeks later, because I thought that these spray cans were damaged. No, not at all. I pulled the tip out and damaged them myself because I thought that these were safety tips. And because of me pulling those tips out, the cans leaked, which caused a bigger issue.
I got a little bit of a paint run. Let me try to fix that.
With the paint coming out the can all drippy and wet and leaking on stuff, I end up getting this weird finish that needed some wet sanding. And I didn't know what I was fully doing, but at least I was using 1000 to 2000 grit, which is what you're supposed to do. But you know, with paint stuff, there's always these difference of opinions. But I did get a decent finish out of this. With that brake fluid cover that I messed up, you know, the paint below the paint didn't dry, so the paint above kind of started like chipping. Yeah, I sanded it back down, reprimed it. Then I actually had it looking wet once I finally threw some paint on it. So there was a little bit of hope.
All right, so it's been about 15 minutes. I decided to wait a little bit longer for this, but I'm starting to get bubbles right around that edge. Right there. I don't know if that's like bubbles coming out of the can or like moisture, but I mean, worst case I have to resand it and clear coat it again, but we'll see.
Yeah, but at this point though, notice anything different? The environment? Yeah, I'm painting outside, not inside, which brings a whole different set of challenges. Now you're dealing with bugs and dust and all this kind of stuff going on, but I'm not gonna lie to you, it was a lot better than spraying in my garage. Now once I started throwing some clear coat down on this fender, man, I was all in, because with this stuff you only have 48 hours of pot life, meaning once you crack it, you gotta use it and it's done after that. But remember when I messed up that paint and it was all drippy? Yeah, let's welcome my good friend Drippy Clear. Yeah, because I did the exact same thing. I messed up the can.
Oh, what was that?
Okay, I should have brought this in as soon as I sprayed it. Two things have landed in my clear coat: a freaking spider web and something else. I thought there was some hope here. I really did. But listen up, man. Listen to me. After this paint would dry in this clear, bruh, this looked so bad. I seriously, I broke down, bro. Like, this looked bad. This looked really bad. Today was not supposed to be my clear coat day, but we have low 70s, perfect day to clear coat. I decided not to do it in the garage. You can actually see I'm in the middle of 3 different projects, so things are kind of different. But the fender, it did not come out perfect, but I figured I was gonna have to do some wet sanding to it. I wet sanded the base coat, the brake reservoir, and 2 other little pieces, and also the suspension strut. Those parts look freaking wet. They came out fantastic. I'm very satisfied with those parts. The Sissy Bar, it came out decent as well. But the cool part about that is, being that the Sissy Bar and the suspension strut is done, I can actually put the rear end of the bike completely back together. So that's cool. I will probably go ahead and do that. But the fender, I'm gonna have to wait for the other parts to clear coat those, because I ran out of clear coat. But I don't want to sand the fender after I've started those parts, if I went and did it tomorrow, because that's gonna probably take 48 hours, probably 3 days to dry, and I don't want to have to go out and get another can, because the pot life on these cans is only 48 hours. So we'll figure it out. Lesson learned. I think we're beyond the worst of these parts, and I think we're starting to get on that other side of, dang, this stuff look good. No, bruh, like, I was not getting there. In fact, this was far from the worst. I had a lot to go. But the good news is the suspension spring, the levers, they came out okay, even though I was still doing this with a messed up can of paint and clear coat. I don't know how these came out okay. There's still some imperfections, but honestly, compared to that fender, your boy got lucky. It's been 24 hours since I laid that clear coat. It looks like butt cheeks. Let me show you.
Look at how this thing freaking dried, man. It looks awful. The fingerprints in there, that's because I've been touching it. It is dry. But look at how the edges of this fender, there's a lip here that I was mentioning earlier. It freaking is, it's just pulled up in there, man. This looks so bad. So freaking bad. It's like this all around. You can see myself in it, but look at that. That is so freaking bad. I did a terrible job with this. I'm gonna try to sand it. Charlotte's Web is in there too. but I don't think this is gonna help me at all. I pretty much feel like I'm gonna have to sand this down, redo the base coat, which means I gotta get more paint, and then re-top coat it.
But after messing up the fender, I took everything I learned and I started over. I sanded the panel down. I cleaned up my mess as much as I could. I threw another few coats of primer on it, and then I spent another $75 on clear and paint. Only this time, I wouldn't mess up the cans by removing the tip.
All right, so this is my final piece. Not perfect, definitely not perfect. You can see some of the little clear coat issues that I had earlier, but I think we're gonna get some good clear coat to lay down this time.
Hey, Brandon Bicasso here. Another day I'm trying to paint. I got the fender sanded back down. I got it primed again, and now I'm putting on the base coat. However, I needed to tell you this. Don't skip this part. I did not know that the tip that comes on these cans is supposed to stay on there. That little yellow tip, that is the control tip. That is what controls the spray and prevents it from coming out like straight water, or I guess whatever thinner that they put in it. The same thing with the Spray Max. It has a tip on it right there. I was taking these tips off thinking that it was a safety tip, and you pull the tip out to start pressing the button. No, there's a little hole in there, and that's what controls the spray, and that's what allows it to come out as a mist. So I should get a better finish on both the base coat and the top coat. I just did not know that that's how you're supposed to do it. When you compare it to a Rust-Oleum can, it does not have one of those little tips. So I thought you're supposed to take that tip out. But either way, that is why I was getting those crazy paint runs. But since I started painting this base coat, it is so much easier to put this stuff on, and I think we should get a better finish this time. I also went to Harbor Freight and spent that 89 cents on a tack cloth, because those shop rags, they leave little specks of lint that are going to make you scream. Don't do it. Go to Harbor Freight, get the tack cloth. Do it. The Sissy Bar, I messed it up. I would go back, prime it, paint it, clear coat it, all pretty much within 24 hours. So at this point, I'm learning, and the results will come out 100% better. So I've put right at 3 coats on the Sissy Bar. It's looking wet. I was a lot closer this time when I was spraying, so it looks really good. And I've had the clear coat and the paint sitting out in the sun. It's about 65 degrees, so no issues of if the paint's going to atomize like it's supposed to. I prepared well enough for this at this point in time. I think out of all my training and learning, I think this is going to get a really good finish, but it's looking really good. My hope is that today will be my last day painting. I've been into this project going on right at 3 to 4 weeks, maybe even a month, because of the temperature, just lack of skill. But I've learned a lot through these trials and errors. And I sprayed the fender yesterday. The finish came out better evenly compared to how it did, because it was all runny and I wasn't using the tip. And but the surface came out a little rough, so I may end up sanding that down with 1000 grit. Not completely, but I don't know. When I did the triple, that came out like really nice. I had to sand that with 1000 grit to smooth the finish out. Well, not really just to smooth the finish out, but to scuff the surface so the clear coat could stick to it. It had been a week, maybe even 2, since I even put that paint on, so it's completely dry. You got to scuff it up so the clear coat can stick to it. With the Sissy Bar, I will be spraying this minutes after I lay the base coat, because it is still within that window where I can put the clear coat on the same day. So we're going to see how this comes out, but depending on how this turns out will determine how I do the fender. But my hope is to the last day of painting is today, and I can go ahead, get these parts done, and get this bike reassembled. But either way, I've learned a lot, and we're going to get some good results regardless. You see how that paint's coming out now? Yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like a cloud, not like a stream of water. I put 2 layers of paint down on top of the sanded surface. 1000 grit, then 2000 grit. I could have just went straight on top of that with the clear coat, but I was like, look, I got the paint. Some people will argue spray on top of it with clear coat. Some people will argue go straight on top of it with base coat again and then clear coat it, because the logic here is you shouldn't have to sand your your base coat. You should never have to sand your base coat. That's what some people say. Obviously, if you got imperfections in the paint, like me, I'm painting outside, or I just did a crappy job because my skill level just isn't there, then there's some situations where you have to sand it to make it better. So when I did the triple, again, I sanded it down, then I put the clear on it. It came out phenomenal. So I could have done that, but then I went, try to cover a little bit more of that edge that I messed up. And it looks better, it looks flatter, but it still doesn't have that glossy look to it. So that's just, you're just not going to get that all the time out of the spray can. It's hard to control that. So I'm going to wait about another 15 to 20 minutes, and then I'm going to throw some clear on, man, and see what happens. But I think either way, we're going to get a better result than what we got the first time.
So it's just lightly dusted on. You see where I got a little trigger happy right there. Went too heavy, didn't run it or anything. And then we got that right at the edge. So the dust coat, like they say, is just to make it so the clear coat will stick to it. You don't want to go too heavy. Now we just wait.
See that clear? Yeah, exactly. Feeling myself with this one. It's working. I had some confidence. Yeah, we're starting to get some decent parts now.
All right, after my second coat, I got a little bit of a run right here on the side. I'm gonna wait till I put this third coat on here in a few minutes. Let's see if I can kind of help that. And I got one little run right there and one kind of right there. But overall, it's looking better.
All right, before we move forward, I got to give a quick shout out to my folks that support me over on Patreon. We've built this little community within this big community, and being that we ain't sponsored over here, we got to pay some of these bills somehow, right? But each individual person gets a nameplate on my wall. I've been building this thing out. If you're into that, I will leave a link down in the description. Let's get back to the video.
All right, I've moved the part. Nothing's on it. It's drying and gassing out. The smell is strong. Look at it. You can see a little bit of imperfection in there. We're gonna see what happens when it dries. Honestly, man, I'm very satisfied with how this is coming out. Very, very happy with how this is coming out. This is one of my paint runs. I was able to fix some of it. So now that the clear coat's starting to blend a little bit, it won't be as big of a problem. And on this side, just gotta let it just do its thing. As for this has been drying for a good bit. It looks really freaking good. I can't wait to show you guys when it's actually done.
So yeah, this entire process would go from bad to good to worst. And I don't even know what's past worse, but it got bad. It got awful. Like, what? I don't even know. Yeah, it just got really bad. But it would not correct itself until I fixed my fundamental issues: the technique, the lack of knowledge, the patience, painting in the correct temperature environment. But the result, the parts are better than where I started. And in all of this, we got a freaking win. And I learned so much because of it. Mistake after mistake after mistake. I would deal with this for the better half of a month. And while these parts are not perfect, I can say that they do look better. And that, to me, is the most important thing. I wanted to try to fix these parts so they didn't end up in a scrapyard, or, I didn't have to buy new parts. If I went ahead and got a more expensive paint gun, or actually bought a paint gun, not necessarily an expensive one, but getting a compressor, got a gallon of clear coat, got a gallon of paint over the long term, and more, spraying, I would have saved money. But I still wanted to get over the hump of the learning curve, learn the fundamentals, understand why you do certain things. And I think I'm a better amateur painter or beginner. I think I sit between beginner and intermediate at this point. I'm better at it because of going through the rattle can phase. And honestly, I would probably still do the rattle can again before I jump to the more, professional things. So the next part of this is I'm actually going to start putting these parts back on the bike. The Sportster has been sitting for the better half of a month, again, trying to paint these parts. But I can say, as I got near the end of this, the Sissy Bar, the fender, I was actually priming, base coating, and clear coating within 24 hours. So I was definitely getting more efficient as I got near the end. But the good news is you don't have to wait for the next part of this series. You can click right here and check out the next part of the Sportster rebuild. But as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I seriously hope you learned something more, so I guess what not to do in this case. But my learning arc was crazy. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.